Hey guys, welcome to another Walking Dead video, and today we're reviewing The Walking Dead Season 11, Episode 15, Trust. And this is not kind of a big episode. It's not like Episode 14 and 13 where they were like kind of mid-season really big episodes. This was an episode where you're like, okay, it's an episode. That's kind of really it. It feels a bit like filler episode, to be honest. So what exactly happens in this episode? So this episode has way too many plots, in my opinion. It has about 3 to 4. So you have the plot A, or what I think is meant to be the plot A, which is Lance trying to figure out what happened in episode 13 and 14. Then you have plot B, which is with Mercer just being sad because he killed a bunch of people. Then you have the plot C, which is to do with Carol, Ezekiel, and Tommy, just kind of doing stuff in the Commonwealth. And you have the semi-plot D, which you can also class as plot B because it ties into plot B, and that's to do with Max's side of the Mercer story, basically. And because you have so many plots, not much happens when you have a lot happening, you know what I mean? Basically, you have all these stories going on, all 4 of these little stories. However, because you have all these stories, not much happens in each of the individual plots. So because you have all these other things going on, the actual plot you care about, plot A, can't progress that much. And all kind of Lance did was head to Hilltop to be like, maybe Maggie's involved. Okay, let's go look around in the woods. That's kind of all that happened. Just because they couldn't do much else, because they had to share the screen time with all the other things. And how this is meant to be kind of the penultimate episode to the mid-season finale, because each part is meant to be its own little condensed thing, kind of. Why are we having some of these stories that feel like they either aren't going to pay off next episode, or they just don't feel a point? Like, I definitely think the Mercer thing, it was needed. However, it could have happened later on, because I don't feel like Mercer's going to do his comic change next episode, just because looking at the trailer next episode and looking where it's going, if they make Mercer and they shoehorn a Mercer part into it, I feel like it would ruin it. So it doesn't make much sense to put it here. They should have put it maybe next episode after, maybe episode 17, something like that, to have it, because I don't feel like Mercer's going to switch until like episode 20 at this point, maybe episode 18, 19. I do also want to talk about the Ezekiel subplot, plot C. I just think that's completely irrelevant, not relevant at all, to the overall story, because it seems like a very kind of bottled thing that's just there to show us that Ezekiel's doing stuff. He's not doing nothing. He's doing more than just surviving cancer. Oh, look at Carol and Tommy, they're doing things. I just didn't like it because it ruined the pacing, because it has nothing to do with anything else. I don't think it's going to connect to anything later, like the Mercer plot. I didn't like it, but I felt like it was needed. We had to watch it so we can see Mercer's change. With Ezekiel, nothing's going to happen. It kind of got all sorted, and I just didn't like it. It just felt like it was wasted screen time, and it kind of ruined the pacing a little. It's just like, oh, we got to give Ezekiel something to do. Let's give him this. I just didn't like it. It was boring, wasn't very interesting, and it was just bland. With all of these subplots, it is clear that the pacing was not very good this episode, just because the only plot I cared about was the plot A. However, because you had to give to all these other plots, it just kind of ruined the pacing, and when the other plots were on, I was just staring at my watch or phone, whatever, just waiting for the plot to go back to the one I cared about, and then nothing really happened this episode, just because there's too much going on, nothing happens, the pacing is bad, especially right at the end when it finally loops back around and be like, okay, let's actually do something with the story, with Lance's stuff. Oh no, just a very sudden ending. I didn't like how sudden the endings are. It was just like they basically found somebody, and then Lance is like, hey, I need your help to do something evil because I'm fully evil now. And then it ends, and I'm like, oh, come on. I didn't like that. I just thought the end was too sudden, and I didn't like how they're treating Lance. Like, I would prefer Pamela be the main villain, but we barely see Pamela. Okay, maybe she's like a back half villain. Maybe the actor's just too old to do this stuff. Maybe she can't be very physical, because I know she's like in her 60s. So they're giving Lance a lot of villainous things, and I'm okay with that, but I just feel like there's a point where he's just gone villainous for villainous sake, and he's just being kind of stupid. I just didn't like it. He was very menacing this episode, which was very fun, and I liked that, especially when he was walking around Hilltop, kind of being menacing and talking to Herschel. That was cool, and he's putting things together, like, so he went to the building, he went to the big building, he's like, okay, look at all this. Oh, there's tyre tracks. And then he goes to the hilltop and finds a car. And he's just sitting there kind of going, okay, if this car works, I got you. And I really love the scene where he's put it all together. He's like, I'm an airhead, I can fix the car. Oh wait, this is unplugged. Puts it all together. Maggie's sitting there like, oh, I'm screwed. And he gets in the car and he puts the engine on. And it doesn't go on. And he just stares down just like, what? I just thought that was amazing. Because I always been like, okay, if that engine turned on, this will be a gripe that Maggie is full small brain. But no, she big brained it. She took something out of the car. I quite liked that they kind of mentioned the car and they made sure to put it out of the way so it's not this giant kind of, why didn't Lance find the car? No, he found the car and the car couldn't work, so he couldn't just be like, you were there. I quite liked it. Lance was a mixed bag this episode, I would say. He was good in some points, but I just didn't like him near the end. He's taken more away from Pamela. He was good and bad. He was give some and take some, Lance was. Talking about characters, Maggie was also a good character. She wasn't annoying like she normally is. She was actually a quite, like, kind of solid character, just because she was just walking around sulking the entire episode, being all quiet. I liked that just because she wasn't being annoying. Daryl was fine, and talking about Daryl, he got the F-bomb. I was in shock when he did that, because this big moment happens. Lance up against the wall. Daryl's got a gun. He's pointing the gun, and then he just drops the F-bomb. And I'm like, oh, they actually finally dropped the F-bomb on TV. They actually finally did it on The Walking Dead. Like, Fear has done it multiple times, so on Fear it's not as impactful. But in The Walking Dead, the only other time they've ever dropped the F-bomb was in Season 4, Episode 16 with Rick. And I think that wasn't even shown in the American version. I only saw it on, like, Fox, because I'm in the UK. It was in that version. But they dropped the F-bomb, and I was like, oh, they finally did it again. And I thought it was so good. It'd be cool if we got way more F-bombs at the end of this season, just because it's the final season. And if you look at the source material, there are F-bombs throughout the entire source material. I would love to see Negan drop one, just because his whole character in the comics is that he swears all the time, and he says the F-bomb. They couldn't really do that in the show, so I want Negan to drop an F-bomb. But other than that big F-bomb, it was kind of a normal episode. Like, that big F-bomb really made the episode for me. But going back to characters, the biggest issue with this episode is that this episode evolves around Gabriel and Aaron. Without Gabriel and Aaron in it, it really sucks, and it really annoys me that they're meant to be the two main characters. They are meant to be the characters that are the most important and need the most screen time, but they are background characters in a story that's affecting them the most. It's about Daryl and Maggie and Lance and all the subplots. But no, it should be about these two characters, because guess what? They're the two characters that might die. And you're like, it's just annoying it's being taken away from them too. Now, all the other characters and all the other subplots, they're kind of not important. They just kind of blend to the background. There's nothing special about them. I liked Mercer and Princess. They were quite cool. I didn't like how all their kind of getting together for their relationship was very off-screen. So we saw a bit in episode 9 or 10. And then, bam, episode 15, they're together. And you're like, okay, I would have liked to have seen maybe one more scene between those two. That's a small gripe I had. I didn't like we went from they basically met for the first time and had their kind of first date to, oh, they live together slightly. Okay, I didn't like that. I thought it was kind of annoying. Mercer was okay. I really liked Mercer's, like, you could feel the inner turmoil he's feeling. I liked that, but other than that, there was no really characters that stood out. There's also kind of lots of little stupid decisions that I didn't like this episode. Like, there's a moment when Lance is talking to Herschel, and then Elijah out of nowhere just attacks Lance. I just didn't read that as, okay, Lance wouldn't have hurt Herschel. Herschel would just eventually have just walked off, and all Lance would have. But Elijah just escalated the situation so we could have that scene where Maggie's holding a gun towards everyone and we get the F-bomb. I just felt that was a little forced. I didn't like it. It's just a bit stupid on Elijah's part to just attack Lance. No, even if he's like assaulting a child, you can't attack him when there's soldiers all around Hilltop. I just thought that was very stupid. The ending was a little stupid because I just didn't like the ending. Talking about other stupid decisions, I really didn't like all to do with kind of Ezekiel's story. I feel like Ezekiel's story was just mostly stupid decisions. It was nice, like, oh, he wants to just help people. However, it was just stupid. I didn't like it. I didn't just I didn't like how they got somehow just was like, hey, yeah, Carol, she has all the power. You mention her name, you get off scot-free. No, she's meant to be an aide to Lance. She's an off-the-records, like, off-the-book helper. If you mention a name, soldiers are going to be like, who's she? Like, I just didn't like how Carol just suddenly has all this power just because she's helped Lance once or twice. Maybe if we saw some more things with Carol this part, we would have understand more why she's able to literally just, if you say her name, you get off scot-free. Like, she's apparently above the law and she's a secret agent. So I just didn't like that. I thought it was very stupid. We also find out what the list was that Connie and Kelly had, and I feel like Connie and Kelly really wasted this episode. So was Rosita. I just remember she's in this episode. They were in like one scene. They were in one scene, that's it. And I thought it was kind of wasted. And I didn't like how the list just kind of eventually ended up with nothing. Because we all thought it'd be CRM related, and it would make sense for it to be CRM related. But it's not, which sucks. It could still be CRM related, but we find out the names on the list are people that were either sent to the mansion and died, or soldiers that just disappeared. They're people that just disappeared, basically. That's the list. And I'm annoyed we're not getting more CRM stuff, because we were kind of told we were going to get a lot of CRM stuff, and annoyed Carol didn't find any CRM stuff. We have one more episode, but I feel like it's not going to involve the CRM, and it's not going to involve the Commonwealth characters. It shouldn't. I just didn't like how the list almost amounts to nothing. It's just a list of people missing, not CRM connected. I just thought that was stupid, and it was a waste of characters like Carol, Connie, Kelly, and Rosita, because that list did nothing. Those characters really did nothing this episode. I didn't really like it. Now let's talk about the end in a very basic way, so slight spoilers. So basically the entire plot A of this episode, which is the only plot I care about because the other two plots are boring, dull, and just kind of there to waste time. The plot A, which has slight action, which is cool because it's not a very action heavy episode like we got the previous two. This one has slight action, so if you like action, you're a bit, yeah, it's not that much. Just gonna be a lot of talking, a lot of slight stupid things going on, and a lot of segues to other plots that you don't care about this episode's going to be. But going back to the ending, basically this entire plot A is Lance trying to find out what happened to the guns, and if Aaron and Gabriel are lying or not. He's trying to prove that they're lying. And so he doesn't prove that they're lying, however he finds guns, because he finds Leah. So he proves that the tower never had the guns. And what does he do when he finds people who has the guns? Hey, I need you. How about I hire you? No, he doesn't just take the guns back. Like, come on. The only reason you're out here is to get the guns. And now he just, for some reason, has a personal vendetta against Maggie. And you're like, no, Maggie hasn't really done much other than point a gun at you because you threatened her son and Elijah went big stupid and decided to attack you. I didn't like the ending. It didn't make much sense to me. It was annoying. And the worst bit is that it sets up Maggie versus Lance and versus Leah thing. Because we know Leah is back next episode. She's kind of fully back in episode 16 to be the driving force against Maggie. And that really annoys me is because they set this all up to be this big drama moment. But however, we know Maggie's going to come out unscathed just because we know that Maggie's got a spin-off. They did the same with Daryl. They're setting Daryl up for Rick's death. We know Daryl can't die because he's got a spin-off. I don't like how they're announcing spin-offs because it ruins the show. It's this moment that they're building up to has been taken away from me because I know they can't die. And so Maggie's fine. We know Maggie's will be fine next episode. However, with next episode being set up like this, I think there is a chance that maybe Herschel could get injured or abducted, maybe, just because that's how you fully drag Maggie into the Commonwealth arc. Because she's kind of on the side still. She's kind of only interacting with Lance, and you want her to be fully in the Commonwealth arc when they finally do the big revolution in Part C. So that's how you fully drag her in. That's what I think they're going to do. So Maggie isn't doomed, but I feel like Herschel's doomed. And with the way episode 16 is looking, I don't think we're going to get Dwight's death, which is really annoying because they're going to stick to that formula of, oh, it's going to be episode 17, Dwight's death happens. That's really annoying just because we know that has to be Rosita doing it because she's foreshadowed it. Otherwise, they forget it and it's just going to be Leah just randomly shoots Aaron or something. I think Dwight's death is going to have to be either episode 17 or right at the end of episode 16, they just go back to the Commonwealth suddenly, and it happens there, and I feel like it's gonna be very rushed. I'm a bit worried about that, but they've set up is Maggie doomed thing in this, and we know she isn't because she's got a spin-off. If they did announce a spin-off, maybe I would be slightly worried because it's the final season. But no, that kind of annoyed me just because we've been told things externally and it ruins the show. But now it's moved to my 1 cent level review. And definitely this episode is not the best episode. It's the weakest out of the 3 we just had. I didn't like the pacing. The pacing was terrible. The plot was terrible. The acting was okay. It wasn't a great episode, and because we're in the final season and we're this late in the final season, this is almost Reaper levels bad. I would say this is definitely a wasted episode. That's my 1 sentence review. This is a wasted episode. I didn't really like the episode. It was a fun time. It was good to watch. It wasn't as bad as World Beyond or the Reaper arc. It was just wasted because I was expecting way more this late into the season, but no. But what do you think about this episode? Please tell me down below. Did you like it? Did you dislike it? What did you think about the ending? That's the big thing. What do you think about the big shocking ending? Please tell me down below. And this is it for me today. So if you want more Walking Dead content, look on the screen for more reviews, more discussion views, more theories, all things Walking Dead. Check out my channel. I recommend you subscribe if you want more Walking Dead content. You'll find something else you'll like, guaranteed. But this is it for me today. So goodbye, peace out, and I'll talk to you later.